DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this evening we have some appetizers for you. We got some. We're coming in hot. We're putting out a lot of content here now that the NFL season starts and that the UFC season just keeps on trucking. But we have some appetizers for you. So this is UFC related here. This is a UFC 306 O'Malley versus Dvalishvili, and this was a very interesting, event because it was held in the Sphere in Paradise, Nevada, Las Vegas Valley. So it was in this special arena, like video board Sphere. So it's like a complete video board on the outside and on the inside, which was cool. And this event was September 14th, 2024 in the Sphere, Nevada, Paradise, Nevada, United States. And there was 16,024 in attendance, and then 21.8 million in the total gate. So it did pretty good. But this was the whole noches for Mexican Independence Day. It was cool, I guess. The experience of it was like the best thing about the Sphere was all the different video and the angles and the visuals that you got from it. But a little bit of a thing that was kind of a little bit annoying from it is that you got when it was doing like video intros and video promos and then replays of the fight, it was showing like the video screen board like in the Sphere from like from a attendance, like a fan's perspective. So for me, I have a hard time reading subtitles to begin with, but then when you make them half, a third of the size that they usually are, I can't see that, and then you don't get a real good look at the replays when it's on like a smaller screen, which it was cool that you got that perspective from the fans' perspective, but at the same time, if I'm watching it on pay-per-view, I'd like to be able to see what they're saying in the video promos. I'd like to see their entrance videos. I'd like to see replays of any like big moments of the fight. But other than that, that was the only thing, my only complaint about the Sphere. Other than that, there were tons of like amazing visuals and making it look like confetti and stuff was falling from the sky and stuff was the fireworks and stuff were going off inside the Sphere. But it was just this amazing 3D like video board. So just with the fact that they made 21.8 million in total gate, it was a pricey ticket just for the arena, the location of it. I would be surprised if they don't do it in there again, and I haven't heard of that they had any problems when doing it. But yeah, so that's the event that we're going to go into here. So that's UFC 306 O'Malley versus Dvalishvili, and that was for the title there. So there was two titles on the line. Also, the trilogy between Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso. But before we ask for that menu, I need to shout out some new subscribers and some commentators. So since I've had more back-to-back kind of content coming out, I've had more subscribers, more views, more likes, and hey, I super appreciate that. During the off season of the NFL, things kind of slow down a little bit, but when I'm releasing a video every other day, it seems like stuff is kind of picked up. So because of that, I've picked up a couple new subscribers and some people even worth interested in commenting on some of my videos. So let me shout out these new subscribers that I'm real happy about, because it was just like a week or two ago that we rolled over to 80, and I was like, man, we just wait till we get to 90. But hell, we're pushing up on that pretty fast. We have 84, 85 now. But let me shout these people out. So M Stanley, I appreciate the subscription. I like that you like whatever I'm producing, the content. I'm not sure if you or some of the other people that subscribed here recently are mixed martial arts fans or if you're Saints fans. But if you're Saints fans, I'll be sure to shout you out on the next Saints podcast, just to make sure that hopefully if you're still listening, you'll catch it, just in case you're not listening to any of the NFL stuff or not listening to any of the MMA stuff. So M Stanley, appreciate it. And then Steve Tyson's the same thing. I really appreciate the subscription, the follows. I feel like you guys are probably giving me likes too, and I appreciate it. That's basically the whole reason I do this is to just to share my knowledge, all the stuff in my head, so I can get it out and get it to you guys. And if you guys like it and enjoy it, hey, that's just a plus to me. So I appreciate it, Steve Tyson. And then Greg Raging Cajun 6968. You were on my last Saints video podcast, and so I'll be sure to shout you out on the next Saints related podcast. But I just wanted to shout you out again, anyways, just in case Greg Raging Cajun 7968 is listening. And it turns out those injuries ended up being non-existent, and the Saints just completely rolled over the Cowboys too. So yeah, Raging Cajun, yeah, Greg Raging Cajun 6968. Yeah, we're getting to the point where we're starting to get a little bit reckless confidence now in the Saints. But anyways, just wanted to shout all those people out, and yeah, I appreciate it. So now let's get into this content here. Let's get into this noches, this sphere here, this event here. See if I can remember all these fights. Man, this was a long event because every single fight on the main card went to unanimous decision, and two of those fights were 5 round fights. So yeah, it's normal that where I'm at, the pay-per-views, they start at like 9 p.m. to begin with. So they're usually 3 hours, so they're over at midnight anyways. Hell, this one was over at like 1 in the morning because it went so long. It was almost hard for me to stay up. But anyways, let's get into it anyways. But that's one of the part of the reason why I'm kind of bagging on this card a little bit, which I already was before we even got to it. Got me kind of thinking that it wasn't that great of a card, for them picking the sphere. I thought they could have maybe picked some different fighters or just more the undercard even just could have been better. But let's get into it. So can I get a menu? And so the first fight on the card, the first two fight really on the card were kind of slightly kind of unknown fighters, guys that had only been on like the Dana White Contender Series and only fought on fight nights. So it was a little surprising, for this being such a big event in the sphere, Noches, Mexican Independence Day. You would have thought that there had been some more notable names on just it's the main of this. That's the two fights are on the main event, but even the undercard, there was no notable names really. I guess Irene Aldana, that's about it on the preliminary card. But just to start with these two fights, they're not very notable. But let's see. Trying to see here. I was wanting to go. Let me go through these first two, and then I'll come back to bonus awards here. So the first fight on the main card was a flyweight bout between Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Odell Osborne. I'm sweating over here, ain't I? Trying not to sweat. Hard sometimes get in these places during this time of year where people don't want to run their AC but don't want to run their heat. At the same time, they're just flip-flopping. It gets a little toasty sometimes. But where was I? I was flyweight bout between Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Odie Osborne, and this fight ended up going unanimous decision. Ronaldo Rodriguez won unanimous decision, and that was 29-28, 29-27, and 29-27, and that was a 3-round, all 5 minutes, so 15 minutes. And so you see those two weird like rankings at the end for these judges where it's 29-27, 29-27. Like you think like how did he win every round but lose a point at the same time? Well, it wasn't because he did any kind of infraction, to like an eye poke or a groin shot or anything like that. It was actually just because he got like dominated in the first round. Looked so bad in the first round. He early onset Ronaldo Rodriguez in the fight, just their first like time like meeting up and throwing some strikes against each other. First time throwing punches at each other. Odie Osborne dropped Ronaldo Rodriguez bad. It looked like when I first thought it, I thought he was out cold and it was over. And then Odie Osborne just kind of starts kind of throwing some punches, and then before you know it, he ends up on the ground and on his back, and then he gets Ronaldo Rodriguez in a in a triangle choke, and he keeps him in that triangle choke for almost the rest of the first round. So that's how Odie Osborne won the first round, 10-8. And then I mean you could kind of argue a little bit of whether Ronaldo Rodriguez like really went on and did enough to win the second and third round. I think in the second round he got caught in a guillotine choke for a couple minutes. Again, got caught in a choke against Odie Osborne. But Odie Osborne, like in the second and then especially in the third round, he kept, like he was doing well in the striking game, and you could argue that maybe he was actually winning in the striking game. But for some reason, he just kept going for takedown attempts and kept shooting in on Ronaldo Rodriguez, and that I think that's what beat him. I think he was winning the third round, but because he kept going for these shots, and then he got reversed at the end of the fight on a shot attempt, and Ronaldo Rodriguez ended up like being having control of him on the ground at the very end of the fight. So I think that left like maybe a lasting impression on the judges. And hell, I thought it was I had predicted Ronaldo Rodriguez to win this fight, but I thought he was gonna win it by rear naked choke, which Odie Osborne had just lost his last two fights by rear naked choke, and Ronaldo Rodriguez had just won his by rear naked choke. So there was a point in the second round where Ronaldo Rodriguez got Odie Osborne's back, and I was like, oh man, we're gonna get the prediction right. But Odie Osborne must have been practicing a little bit, practicing his defense on the rear naked choke after his last two losses. But so that was the first fight on the card. Even though it's not really notable fighters and not like a bigger weight class or anything like that, it was exciting. It was a good fight, but you just did not getting the knockouts or the submissions that you would prefer. You want a couple of those kind of sprinkled in uh, sprinkled in on here, but you didn't get that on the main card. But so let's go on to the second fight. We have a lightweight bout between Esteban Ribovics versus Daniel Zellhuber. And let's see. So this fight went decision as well, and it went split decision 29-28, 28-29, 29-28. And that's all three rounds, all 15 minutes. And I originally had picked Daniel Zellhuber to win this by decision. So, I thought whoever won this fight was going to win it by decision, just for the sole fact that both of them have showed like pretty much the only time that they lose a fight is by decision. So, and then half of their fights have been won by decision. So the chances of them finishing one or the other, that wasn't very likely, and that made for a good fight because both of these fighters had a very similar style, and basically it was just kickboxing. It was just a kickboxing match. There wasn't much attempts at going for a takedown or anything like that, submissions or anything. It was just kicks and kickboxing, and the whole time they made some kind of statement. I can't remember if it was Esteban Ribovics or Daniel Zellhuber, like that he was kicking, he was using his leg kicks, but he was still kicking the guy in the thigh, as if that's something that's completely been eliminated in MMA, kicking people in the thigh. I didn't know that. That was such a big deal. Like when I first became a fan, like in the 2000s, like that's where you kick people, was like in the thigh and then like the knee, the knee like joint area. But I guess that's all been abandoned for the calf kick. I guess the calf kick and the inside the inner kick. But that's something they mentioned. But yeah, this fight was very. There really wasn't any like moments where it looked like one or the other like dropped the other, or the other seemed like super hurt. I actually Daniel Zellhuber, I take that back actually. Daniel Zellhuber in the first round got rocked pretty good, and the ref almost came in to like stop it, but then I guess he noticed that he had recovered a little bit, and then like for like almost the rest of the entire round, he's like running away from Esteban Ribovics and like bobbing and weaving, and man, he just kept bobbing, weaving. It seemed like the amount of energy and the mental capacity that it took to do all the bobbing and weaving and the running away, you would have thought he'd been able to fight back and throw some punches, but that's not what happened in that moment. I think that's probably what won Esteban Ribovics the fight, just because that was probably like the lasting impression on the judges, because then the rest of the fight was pretty technical and pretty like technical and skilled, like kickboxing fight. Even though they got a little bit crazy at the end of the fight when the clappers went off, they just started swinging punches, and definitely left a lasting impression on the judges, and left one on the commentators and Dana White as well, because they won. Esteban Ribovics and Daniel Zellhuber won fight of the night. So they won fight of the night. Some of the commentators were even saying, "Oh, maybe fight of the year." I don't know. I doubt it, just because of the names aren't big enough. And then we got some performance of the nights from Ignacio Bahamondes and Caitlin Souza. So applaud to them. But as you can see, almost none of the fights or fighters or notable fighters, like the top three fights, won any of the awards. So that kind of tells you that they kind of underperformed a little bit, you could say. So that's the first two fights. You could probably argue that the first two fights on the cards of not as notable fighters were the best fights on the main card, because I don't know, it wasn't that exciting. Uh, the 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 top three fights weren't great with the big names. So it's not always the big names that give you the good fights. So on to the third fight, we have a featherweight bout between Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega, and that went decision unanimous, and that went 30-26, 30-26, or yeah, 30-26, 30-27, 30-27, and that was Diego Lopez. I'm trying to think, what what round did the judges give Diego Lopez 10-8? I don't remember that fight, or remember Diego Lopez dominating any of those rounds that much. But that went all three rounds, and that went all 5 minutes, all 15 minutes of the three rounds. And let's see, I'd originally picked Diego Lopez to win this, and maybe be let's see, I'm trying to remember how many times. Yeah, I guess win this and get a knockout over Brian Ortega. But I knew Brian Ortega was tough, and what I was a little surprised by is how Diego Lopez looked like so much better on the ground. Like he look, I was surprised. Like that's where he kind of went and displayed like his dominance was on the ground. But they were very evenly matched, very similar fighters, but Diego Lopez just looked a little faster and a little stronger and just a little bit explosive. He's kind of on that title contender kind of heater, and he's a couple years younger than Brian Ortega. So I think it's just his moment. But I don't really remember one of those rounds being 10-8. It may have been the third round, because towards the end of that, Diego Lopez was really turning it on, trying to get the finish. He was throwing a lot of punches and combinations with Brian Ortega up against the fence. I think he even finished kind of on top of him on the ground, kind of just wildly throwing punches, just trying to leave a lasting impression in the judge's eyes. But he couldn't get a stoppage, because Brian Ortega is just tough. But I guess he moves from where he was. He was originally ranked. I think he was ranked like in like the 14s or something. He was like 10, 14 ranking at featherweight. Let's see. Yeah, he was like somewhere in like the top 10, top 15, I think, but because he beat Brian Ortega, who was number 3, he takes number 3, the number 3 rating at featherweight. So he should be, like he said, put on my plate. Anyone in front of me to put on my plate for a title shot. So that's what he's looking for. I could see why, even though I wouldn't say that was an overly impressive uh, fight or win. Really, what makes it impressive is just that of who it was over. But other than that, I wouldn't say that I was overly excited or entertained by that fight, and wouldn't say that changed a whole lot for the co and the main event. But anyways, so on to the co-main event, we have a flyweight championship bout between Alexa Grasso, the champion, versus Valentina Shevchenko, the challenger at the time. And I predicted that fight to go to decision. So really, out of all these fights, I guess that's the one that didn't surprise me the most because it went the fighter and then the method as well, and that went unanimous decision, 50-45, 50-45, 50-45. So Valentina Shevchenko pretty much dominated that fight the entire time. It went 5 rounds, all 5 minute, 5 rounds. So it went all 25 minutes, and she just dominated Alexa Grasso. You know, she at the beginning of each round, she played around with her a little bit in the striking game, but I don't think she even wanted to take a risk of Alexa Grasso landing a good shot or somehow getting her rocked and getting on her back like she had finished the first 2 fights. She had finished having Valentina Shevchenko's back at the end of each of those fights. But Valentina Shevchenko didn't allow that to happen. Like the only moment really that Alexa Grasso had was it was either in the second or the third round. She got Valentina Shevchenko in a guillotine choke, and it looked like she had it pretty good, and she held it for a good portion of the round. And the ref is constantly asking like, are you okay? You good? You know, kind of feeling to make sure that they're still giving the thumbs up. And at one point, it looked like you know Valentina Shevchenko, maybe her arm just wasn't fighting the hands anymore or what, but it looked like she just kind of went limp for a second, and the ref grabbed her arm to make sure it was still moving, and it came to life like right away. But that was about the only real moment for Alexa Grasso. But I wouldn't say Valentina Shevchenko was in any point in time really had an opportunity to get a knockout or get a submission of herself. What we did see, what we did see a couple times was similar to how Alexa Grasso got Valentina Shevchenko's back in the first fight. Is Valentina Shevchenko doing those spinning elbows, those spinning back fists and stuff like that, and Alexa Grasso would would get her back and try to take her down from there. But it seemed like Valentina Shevchenko had a better defense against that in this fight, and most of the time when that would happen, Valentina Shevchenko would just reverse it and then end up right back on top. And then at the end of this fight, at the fifth round into this fight, just like in the 2 previous fights, Alexa Grasso finished having Valentina Shevchenko's back. Valentina Shevchenko, I think, wanted to make a statement and made a statement. Here, she finished the fight having Alexa Grasso's back. So now we have a new champion, Valentina Shevchenko, winning by unanimous decision. Can't say it was an overly exciting fighter, but I think champ, her is back in Valentina Shevchenko, and I was a little surprised, but at the same time, I guess not that she didn't retire like right then. Like, I mean, what does Valentina Shevchenko have left to prove? Not a lot. So that was the first championship. That was the co-main event, and then on to the main event. We have bantamweight championship bout between at the time Sean O'Malley, champion, versus the challenger Merab Dvalishvili. And this fight went kind of how I expected Sean O'Malley's last 2 fights to go. Like his fight against Marlon Vera, and really his last 3 fights I expected to go like this. Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling, Marlon Vera. I predicted all those guys to kind of just abandon the striking game and just try to dominate him on the ground and just control him there. But I don't know. Aljamain Sterling couldn't hold him down. Peter Yan couldn't hold him down. Marlon Vera Didn't really try, but that's definitely what I was expecting Aljamain Sterling to do to Sean O'Malley. Is exactly what Merab Dashvili did. He pulled his perfect Bilal Muhammad impression of the bantamweight sizes. And yeah, so Sean O'Malley just never had a chance in this fight. So it went decision unanimous. I had predicted it for Sean O'Malley. The first time I actually jump on his bandwagon and pick him to win a fight, he comes crashing back to earth. Even though I had predicted basically the same thing to happen to him with fights against Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling, but for some reason that didn't happen. But these fights went 49, 46, and 48, 47, and 48, 47. So I think one of those judges gave him the fifth round, and then two of those judges gave him the third and the fifth round. And to me, really, it was basically just the first round was the showed the best defense from Sean O'Malley against Merab Dashvili, even though he was fighting the takedown pretty much the entire round, which that's why he lost that round. Is because he was fighting against it, but he showed in the first round he did his best job of defending it and being able to get back up. But before I forget, the funny thing about this fight is some of the antics that we got from Merab Dashvili. Right when the fight was about to start, he goes over and he's like screaming at Sean O'Malley's cornermen, and then you have to have Herb Dean tell them to stop and give them a warning for over coaching or something, which I guess I'd never heard that before. So we got that out of Merab Dashvili, got Merab Dashvili acting crazy. And then I can't remember if it may have been the first or the second round. Merab Dashvili finally got Sean O'Malley like kind of on the ground and kind of like hunched over to where he's got him kind of like in a partial front choke. And I guess he started kissing him on the back or something weird like that. He started sexually assaulting Sean O'Malley, kissing him on the back. And Herb Dean had to come in and stop him. There was only like 10 seconds left, and Merab Dashvili just got up and acted like he was stopping the fight or that the round was over. And hell, he turned his back, and before you know it, Sean O'Malley's jumping up and trying to punch him before that. So that was some weird, some sus stuff was happening in that fight from Merab Dashvili. Coming from him, he's very energetic and he's a character, that's for sure. But to me, two of those judges gave Sean O'Malley actually gave Sean O'Malley the third round. But I mean, as far as I can remember, the third round was more of the same of the first and the first, uh, the first, second, and fourth round. Honestly, the only round that I thought Sean O'Malley won was the fifth round, where he was finally able to kind of get his distance between him and Dashvili, and kind of get his range and was able to defend the takedowns and get back up when he needed to. And finally, he connected on a couple punches and a flying knee, and I guess he was doing these like front kicks to the body where he was digging like his big toe like into the solar plexus there, and I guess he was caught. He landed a couple of good ones that I guess kind of got hurt. Merab Dashvili maybe knocked the wind out of him and had him chasing him like at the end of the round, which was kind of funny because it seemed like Merab Dashvili was kind of running away, and Sean O'Malley was kind of having to chase him at the end of the round. And you're hearing this a lot from Herb Dean in the fights that he was reffing. He was telling people to, even when they're on the ground like in a dominant position or pushing people up against the cage, and you're just doing dirty boxing up against the cage, and he was just kept telling them to work, even though it's like they're working to win a title here. And Joe Rogan wasn't a fan of that, but he was acting like as if he'd never heard that before or something. But yeah, so that's UFC 306. O'Malley versus Dashvili. I mean, it had some marquee names, some elite fighters and stuff on the card. The top three fights, but it didn't have enough on the undercard. And then I think the main card just kind of came up short with not necessarily how the fights went, but just kind of the outcomes, you know. I'm sorry, but even if the fight's like the best fight you've ever seen, you know, just a drag it out brawl, you know, all the way to the clappers, you know. If you don't get a knockout or a submission kind of sprinkled in there, it's kind of you know. It's, I'm not getting all that I paid for. I feel like, but still, it was a good fight, and man, maybe people know who Esteban Ribovics and Ronaldo Rodriguez is now, and hey, maybe we have a Diego Lopez flyweight championship bout here in the future. And me personally, I don't think I want to see a uh, fourth fight between Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso. But I think that's about all I have for you. I guess we will be back. See when we will be back. Less than a month. We will be back October 5th for UFC 307. We're having Alex Pereira again. Uh, Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree for the belt. So that should be good. And that's just October 5th, 2024, Delta Center, Salt Lake City, Utah. So I get more excited about like the heavier weight classes and more fighters that have like knockout capability or are submission artists, you know, people that just, you know, like definitely the last two fights on UFC 306. Those were definitely fighters that were just trying to grind out wins, and one get their title back and the other win the title. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So can I get a check, please?